Hi Queens, Sam here. I hope that you're doing amazing. So, in today's video, I want to talk about mistakes that landlords make all the time. First thing first, if you haven't watched my interview that I did of Evelyn, what are you waiting for? Come on, go check it out. And it's important because Evelyn has been building wealth by doing real estate investing, and she's been at it not even 2 years, and she's really doing well. And she has two different strategies. She's renting one of her properties long-term to long-term tenants, and she's renting one of her other properties to doing short-term rental. So it's two different strategies that she's actually applying, and she shares in her interview how things have been going, and honestly it's really inspiring. So check it out. After the interview, I was thinking of a few things, and one of the things that I realized is that when it comes to real estate investing, most of the strategies that people will go for is buying a property and renting it long term, because at the end of the day is the one that is, I guess, a bit hands off. You don't have to be cleaning regularly after each tenant for a short-term rental. It just, I guess, you get long-term tenants in there, and you just collect your rent, you make the repairs, and you hope that everything goes well. But there are mistakes that landlords make all the time, which could deter someone from doing that particular strategies, and those are the ones that I want to share with you today. I do think there are more than 5 mistakes that I'm going to be sharing. So if you know of any other mistakes that long-term, landlords who rent long-term make, definitely share them in the comments below, and let's learn together about that. The first one that I think that landlords make all the time is essentially not vetting tenants enough. We are living in an age where everything, or at least most of the things, are on internet, and you should leverage that. When you get any application from people, Google their name, just see what the internet gives you, and trying to find if there is anything that is adverse information that might prevent you from getting them as tenant. Who knows, right? And at the end of the day, when you get an application from someone, you only know about the credit score, their employment information, the reference, but still it's on paper. But when they move into your place, they're essentially there now, and you want to make sure that there are people who can afford the rent, people who have good values that you can communicate with, and people are going to be taking care of your place. So don't just stop at getting a paper application from prospective tenant. Make sure to maybe meet them in person, have a conversation with them, see how the communication is with them. And even if it's a video call, that's already also a good thing. Maybe essentially you're not in person wherever your property is, or they're not there yet, but at least you have a video call, you can see their face, can see how they communicate, and then you can see if those are people that essentially you feel comfortable renting your place to. Because one thing that we need to mention, at least for what I know personally living in Ontario, Canada, the laws in Ontario are tenants favored. So essentially the tenants have more rights than the landlords. So essentially that means if there is any issues, chances are the tenants will get more advantage, more power than the landlord. So you really want to make sure that you're getting good people in your property, and people that if there is any issue you can have a conversation with. I've heard of horror stories, to be honest, of tenants staying at people's place, damaging the place, not paying rent, and landlords struggling to get the tenants out. And at the end of the day, most of the people, all of the people who do real estate investing, that's because they want actually to cash flow. They want to get some financial gain from doing that. And you're not going to be getting any financial gain if you're not getting the right tenants in your property. So take your time, don't be rushed because your property is empty. You rather have an empty property than getting someone quick in your property, and then the third or fourth month comes and then they don't pay, and then you cannot contact them, damaging your place. You cannot even have access to your property. You do not want that. So take your time to find the right tenant for your place. The second mistake that I see landlords make all the time is blindly trusting realtors. Realtors are real estate professionals. We do need them. Most of the time, they know much more than us, even as landlords. But the thing is, like, you want to essentially look at it and making sure that, first of all, you're choosing the right realtor to work with, but also do your own due diligence. At the end of the day, your property is probably not the only one that they have under contract. And like anyone, they only have 24 hours in a day and they have their own life to take care of. So when they send you contracts and be like, sign here, sign here, sign here, just make sure that you're looking at it, you're reading the clauses, you're asking questions, and when you sign, you know everything about that contract, because you don't want to blindly sign any contract and be stuck with it and then realize that, okay, well, I just didn't agree with this clause, or I wasn't sure what this clause meant. You want to ask the question before you sign. So again, not to say that what they will send you is questionable, but at the end of the day, if you're going to be signing any paper, not only contract, but in anything that you do, you're gonna be putting your signature, on a wet signature on a line. You need to make sure that you understand what you're signing. So that's pretty much it. And if your realtor has any issue because you're asking questions, it might not be the right realtor for you, and you want to look into another realtor. There's a lot of realtors out there, so find the right one to work with, that you can communicate with, and you can be comfortable asking questions, right? So that's that. The other thing, other mistake that I see landlords make all the time is mixing personal and business affairs with the tenants. And what do I mean? What do I mean by that exactly? So tenants are a person like you, right? So you might develop a relationship with them throughout the year, especially if they're renting, let's say, a portion of your property where you're living. You see them often. Maybe your kids hang out together. So, you guys have barbecues together, you have outings together, and then they start becoming, I guess, more friends than just tenants. But don't forget that, the basis of that relationship is still business. They're still your tenant. They still have to pay you. You still have to make sure that their place is livable and you're making the repairs and everything, because you don't want to mix the business part of the relationship with the personal part. So always pay attention to not, for the lines to become blurry and just wondering, is it your tenant? Is it your friend? Because it becomes more complicated, right? So it's harder to say no to a friend asking you if they can skip their next month rent, versus when you're looking at it from business relationship and being like, no, well, you have committed to this and I need this to happen. So you want to make sure that, even though you might have some relationship with them on a personal side, that business aspect of the relationship still is not lost. It still stays there, and you can rely on leverage that whenever you need to. So that's really the third mistake that landlords will make. The fourth mistake that I've seen a lot of landlords essentially making is not having well articulated contracts with their tenants. If there is anything that is really important to you when it comes to your property, you need to say it. You need to say it clearly in the lease. The tenants will agree to it at the beginning of the tenancy, and then that essentially, both parties know that this is something that they are bound to. Because once the lease is signed by both parties, it becomes a binding legal contract. So if you don't want the tenants to be building some random shed on your driveway parking, you need to specify that in the list. Granted, you cannot maybe specify in each and everything, but there are ways of putting sentences, clauses which will include like any transformation, any changes, major changes that the tenants may want to do in the place. So you want to make sure that anything that is really important to you for the place, it's listed out in the list. So even when the tenant does any of those, well, you can rely on the contract. You can go back to the contract and and hold them, hold their feet to the fire about that. So make sure to have well articulated list. In Ontario here, we do have a template that you can use, or you can have your own template. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, like I say, once it's signed by both parties, it becomes a binding legal contract. But at the end of the day, you just want to make sure that essentially things that are important to you are there, and if the tenant signed, then everybody agrees to it, and that's pretty much it. And the last mistake that I see landlords make most of the time, if not all the time, is not having a community to support them in them being a landlord. It's not easy. If you are the only one in your circle having properties and renting to tenants, there's gonna be times that you really need maybe to ask questions, like just find ideas. And yes, internet is there, you can go on internet and Google and all of those things, but at the end of the day, it's so much easier when you know some people who have been through it, who are doing it just like you, that you can just connect with and ask questions and bounce ideas off and feel supported, feel connected. It's just much easier. So find your tribe, find your community. It could be in-person community, it could be virtual community, it doesn't matter. But ideally, probably like landlords that are also like renting long-term in your area, because from one area to the other, the laws might be different, so things will not be the same. But like if you find people who are essentially renting their properties in the same area, then it's much easier to be reaching out to them, asking them questions, because the laws will be the same for everybody. So don't be alone on your boat trying to find answers by yourself, because like I say, it's not easy. There's gonna be times that you will need to reach out to other people and get a bit of support, a bit of help, and it will be so much easier when you have that community in place. So find your tribe. So those are the 5 mistakes that I really wanted to share with you today. If you are thinking of buying a property and renting long term, think about those mistakes. If you have done it, if you think of any other mistake that I haven't shared here, share it in the comments, because let's just put it out there and really help people who are considering building wealth by doing real estate investing to know about those pitfalls of being a landlord, and just be ready to avoid them as much as possible. So there you have it. I'm hoping that you got some value from this video. As usual, don't forget to like, to subscribe to the channel, make sure to hit the notification bell, as I'll be doing more solo videos in the near future, but also interviewing amazing Black women building wealth in different ways. And I know they'll be inspiring you, so you want to be advised when I'm actually putting those videos out there. And until next time, keep on building wealth.